Hello, my students. This is a look at the Erosion student handout, and this section is part 1, looking at part A, the introduction, entitled How Appalachian Woodlands Turned into the Tennessee Desert. Let's get started. Way back in 1843, settlers in Tennessee found pieces of copper in a creek on land that had not long before that belonged to the Cherokee Indians. Well, the Tennessee Copper Company was formed in 1899 and began large-scale mining for copper in a part of the Appalachian Mountains now known as the Copper Basin or Ducktown Basin. The copper miners cut down every tree for miles around to use in the mining process called smelting. And for that, if you click on the link, you'd learn that they have to build fires, very hot fires, to melt the rock and get the copper out of it. So they cut down a lot of trees. Such a large area was stripped of trees, 50 square miles, that many years later, astronauts in space could see the big brown spot where the Tennessee copper mine was. By 1928, folks began calling the empty dirt land the Tennessee Desert. On the left is the normal appearance of Tennessee hills. I'm sure you've seen that yourself, trees and thick growth. And on the right, well, that's the way it looked in that area in 1912. Almost nothing that looks like a plant or tree. A couple of spots there around some big house. But it's not looking too good. Soon streams and rivers turned an ugly yellow-orange color, the color of copper pennies. This was acid mine drainage, and that's formed when sulfur-bearing minerals or rock from deep within the earth is brought up to the surface and reacts with water and air. Worse, the process of extracting or pulling the copper from the rock created even more acid that came down with rains as acid rain. Not only were the trees gone, but the acid killed off every other form of vegetation, along with bugs and snakes and every other wild animal. The Tennessee Valley Authority was formed in 1933 and almost immediately began trying to repair the damage done by the mining operation. But all the good soil had washed away. It was difficult to get anything to grow. It took decades of effort. It helped when the mining operation ceased in 1987 and when the sulfuric acid plant shut down in 2000. According to an article in the Chattanooga Times Free Press, published in May of 2016, good news here, the North Potato Creek, for the first time since mining began, is home to fish life. One particular spot along the creek, once a hub for the primitive 19th century smelting activities, was remediated or made better in 2008 and 2009 and now flows with water clean enough to support fish life and diverse biology. There are links on the second page to the article where you can scroll down to the last couple of sections. Be sure to view that article along with TVA's report, The Greening of Copper Basin. And you might want to visit the Ducktown Basin Museum website to look around. I'll do separate videos for those links mentioned just there. Meanwhile, the photos show restoration progress from 2004 when the water still had an orange tint to 2008 when the water had become more clear, more natural. Here's where your job comes in, student. Part A is research and report. Use information from the TVA report and anything else that you found in this guide or online in the links. Use that information to answer the following. Use your own paper for additional room. Claim number 1. Human activity can affect the land and water in negative ways. Need to show evidence and then explain your reasoning. Human activity can affect the land and water in negative ways. Show evidence and explain reasoning. Claim number 2. Human activity can affect the land and water in positive ways. And again, show evidence and your reasoning. We're looking at 2 different points. Human activity can affect the land and water in both negative and positive ways. Separate those out, show both sides based on what you've read and seen and learned. We'll stop here, and I'll create a part 2 for the rest of the handout.